The tragic events at the Lonmin mine have brought back memories of the atrocities committed during the apartheid era. Alexis Flynn joins me now to look at the political ramifications. Alexis, you're South African. You follow the history and the politics of the country closely. What do the Marikana shootings tell us about the broader political situation?
Well, I mean, essentially, this is the first time in the 20 years since apartheid ended that we've seen this kind of political violence, and it really revives memories of the worst kinds of massacres that we saw in the past. It's shocked South Africans who I think have got used to the idea of being a stable democracy, but it speaks to some of the underlying tensions in the country, and I think it is a very worrying development.
I mean, one of the things that strikes me from the pictures is obviously, aside from the police violence, is also the protesters, armed again with spears and machetes, and sort of the pictures go back to the sort of previous era.
Yeah.
Can they be disarmed or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think people have sort of spoken particularly about the fact that you've got armed protesters, people with spears against policemen armed with rifles, that reviving these horrible memories of the colonial era. But it also, I think, to your point, it shows that there's an escalation in tensions. This has just gone from being a simple labour dispute to I think worrying developments that people actually are prepared to potentially use violence.
So how could it affect the rest of the country, do you think?
Well, I think this is coming against the backdrop of protests that have broken out over the last couple of months, the last 2 or 3 years, where you've seen sort of small-scale protests with frustration from ordinary South Africans, ordinary poor South Africans, upset at the pace of service delivery, and potentially this could act as a catalyst in a way, and bring a harder edge to those types of protests. I think the governments, the ANC and the trade union movement will really take a look at this and have to react.
One thing, with the ANC, I understood, a sort of widely held belief that they've done a good job since they held power. But I mean, aren't the ANC and the NUM on the side of the workers?
Traditionally, they would have been, yes, and you're correct. I mean, the NUM and COSATU, the umbrella body, played a tremendously important role in the anti-apartheid movement and would have fought for the rights of workers before. But in those 20 years, there's been a perception, or real or not, that the ANC and the trade union movements have become kind of co-opted by big business, if you like, and have become much more ingrained in the kind of the capitalist framework of the country. Certainly from how their traditional supporters may have seen them. And I think there's been a move towards more populist policies. We've seen leaders like Julius Malema, for example, the young firebrand who was excluded from the ANC in controversial circumstances a couple of months ago, who's actually found common cause with this new breakaway union in the past. So there's a real challenge, if you like, to that traditional authority and power in the
So this
country.
is really stretching into politics. So I mean, what happens now? I mean, does this stay as a local thing, or is it is this much bigger than that?
Well, it really presents the ANC with a challenge, and it certainly presents COSATU and the leadership of COSATU with a challenge. How do they react? The best case scenario, I think, is if they react positively and they introduce more plurality in the political system. The ANC's become quite ossified and staid, and maybe this is a good opportunity for them to open up the democratic process a little bit more. But the pessimistic view, and potentially the more realistic view, is that they will use more populist policies. They'll look to possibly talk about nationalism again. They may even use the race card and look to inflame racial tensions among the various racial groups in South Africa.
Wow.
Which wouldn't be a great development at all.
So that's still very much, bubbling under the surface.
It is, absolutely, and this is the thing. Unfortunately, the inequality is a huge problem in South Africa. The white minority still tends to enjoy disproportionate wealth compared to the rest of the country, and it's a flashpoint, and until that really gets resolved on a deeper and more fundamental level, unfortunately these kind of tensions will continue to escalate.
Right. Alexis, thank you very much for joining us and bringing us up to date on the fascinating political situation.